Part 11. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 101. Chapter 101. Princes and princesses are the standard. Since she has chosen the heroine of the stage play, Xia Ying now has to take time to rehearse every noon. Mu Niankai is the vicious second female lead, and Xia Menjian plays the heroine's friend. She has very few lines and is just a vase. Mu Niankai was originally unwilling to take this role, but when she thought that the second female lead was better than nothing, she gritted her teeth and accepted it. Moreover, she had to supervise Xia Ying and not let her get too close to Jun Chenai. Jun Chenai, I have something to ask you. Xia Ying suddenly thought of something and walked to Jun Chenai. Jun Chenai was sitting aside and playing with his mobile phone slowly. When he heard Xia Ying's words, he raised his head and glanced at her. What? I asked you to find me an agent, how can you find me an agent? Jun Chenai curled his lips and said, he is the most powerful agent I know. What's wrong? Is he harassing you again? No, Xia Ying frowned, not knowing what to say. Can't you change it? I wouldn't worry about another one. What? Nothing. Jun Chenai quickly interrupted Xia Ying, what do you want to investigate? If that guy is very annoying, I can help you indirectly. Xia Ying looked at Jun Chenai suspiciously. Jun Chenai rolled his eyes and sneered, why, you don't trust me? You have no reason to help me, do you? I have the right to be skeptical. Jun Chenai smiled disdainfully, stupid woman. Hey, why do you keep scolding me? Xia Ying is going crazy, can't this guy be more civilized? It's enough to open your mouth and hurt her every day. Jun Chenai stood up. His height of 1.84 meters made Xia Ying, who was 1.68 meters tall, a bit petite. Jun Chenai stared at Xia Ying and smiled playfully, first of all, I am not that shameless. Secondly, it will do me no good to fool you. Moreover, to me, this is a person who can no longer just a small favor. Oh well. Xia Ying curled her lips and said, you must keep it a secret. Childish. Jun Chenai sneered. Give me your, mobile phone number. Jun Chenai looked at Xia Ying and laughed, what did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Say it again. Sick. Xia Ying rolled her eyes, turned around and left. Then Xia Ying didn't take a few steps when her cell phone rang. Jun Chenai behind her took the cell phone and shouted to her, hey, remember to save it? Xia Ying's face darkened. Why did she think this Jun Chenai was so childish? Xia Ying thought so, took out her mobile phone and started saving the number. Xia Ying turned around and met Xia Menjian's eyes. Xia Menjian saw Xia Ying and immediately avoided her gaze. Xia Ying didn't come back yesterday, and Xia Chuanhai stayed up almost all night. Xia Menjian felt from the bottom of her heart that in Xia Chuanhai's heart, Xia Ying was the real daughter, and she felt nothing but guilt for her. But it doesn't matter, she will get it back step by step. Xia Ying's role is the princess, Mu Niankai plays the princess's vicious sister, and Xia Menjian is a maid next to the princess and her friend. Jun Chenai's role is a prince from a neighboring country. Xia Ying and Jun Chenai's roles were originally a couple in love. Due to Mu Niankai's repeated sabotage and the constant disagreement between the two countries, the two of them went through many experiences. Despite many difficulties, they finally got together. Mu Niankai's ending was tragic. Fairy tales are always so consistent, the prince and princess are the standard match, and the bad guys will definitely get the corresponding end. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 102. Chapter 102. Why are you the heroine? Xia Ying in her previous life was at least an international movie queen, and this kind of stage play was a piece of cake for her. Teacher Su was also very satisfied with Xia Ying's performance and kept praising her for her good performance. The heroine is a somewhat silly and sweet character, and it is really difficult for ordinary people to control her. But Xia Ying is different. She knows every frown, every move very well. Not only does she express the kindness of the heroine vividly, but she also doesn't make people feel too holy. Xia Ying's acting skills shocked the instructors present. Several teachers. Xia Ying, have you ever thought about becoming an actor in the future? Teacher Su said to Xia Ying with a smile. Let's see the opportunity. Xia Ying answered her with a smile. You are really talented in acting, it seems that you deserve the title of heroine. Teacher Su is not stingy with his kind words. Damn it! Mu Niankai on the side looked very unhappy at Xia Ying being surrounded by everyone and praised her, and rolled her eyes. What's so great about it is that the role of the heroine doesn't require any acting skills at all, right? Mu Niankai said angrily. Mu Niankai's younger sisters were standing aside and did not dare to speak, because Mu Niankai had just been accused of not performing well, while Xia Ying had been praised all the time. She was in a very unhappy mood now, so she had better not speak to avoid irritating her. She will be better. Damn it, the heroine should have been mine, Xia Ying, huh? The heroine is yours? Why do you have it? With fraud. Mu Niankai was still complaining about something. When she heard this voice, Mu Niankai stopped speaking suddenly and turned around to stare at the visitor in shock. It was Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai happened to be passing by here, and by chance he heard Mu Niankai's complaint. Seeing Jun Chennai looking at her with disgust, Mu Niankai panicked and her lips started to tremble. If Jun Chennai heard what he said, would he think that she was the kind of woman who was petty and likes to speak ill of people behind their backs? Also, Teacher Su and I filed a lawsuit against you for falsifying your votes. If there is a reason, I don't need to tell you, you can figure it out yourself. After Jun Chennai finished speaking, he turned around and left coldly. Mu Niankai stayed on the spot. The reason, could it be that Jun Chennai didn't want to act with her, or that Jun Chennai only wanted to act with Xia Ying? No matter which reason it was, Mu Niankai was so angry that her teeth itched. After the rehearsal, everyone was ready to change clothes and go home. Because they were wearing medieval European-style ancient palace costumes, there were a lot of etiquette and behavioral norms that needed to be paid attention to, so Teacher Su asked them to rehearse in costume. Xia Ying remembered that in her previous life, Mu Niankai took the opportunity to secretly record a video of her changing clothes, and then posted it online for live streaming. Xia Ying therefore rushed to the changing room in advance. The changing room had simple cubicles, and everyone changed clothes in different cubicles. Because they wear different clothes, there is a separate room for each person. Xia Ying walked into her cubicle, looked around, and sure enough she saw the camera. Xia Ying sneered, then changed her clothes into a compartment with Xia Menjian's clothes next door, and then walked into Xia Menjian's compartment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 103. Chapter 103. People's hearts are scary sometimes. Xia Ying, from what Mu Niankai said, did she originally intend to harm you? Ye Xiaoxun blinked in surprise and stared at Xia Ying. She actually never understood the reason why Mu Niankai had been targeting Xia Ying. In her opinion, Xia Ying was nice and beautiful, so many people should be willing to be friends with her. But she heard Xia Ying say that she never had many friends since she was a child. Ye Xiaoxun never understood this. Xia Ying nodded, looked at Ye Xiaoxun, and said, Xiaoxun, the human heart is actually quite scary sometimes. So in the future, don't be too unsuspecting. Sometimes others are not sincere when they treat you well. Ye Xiaoxun nodded seriously. Xia Ying looked at Ye Xiaoxun's innocent and simple appearance. It was a pity to think that she ended her life early in her senior year of high school in her previous life. Xia Ying vaguely felt that Ye Xiaoxun must have been framed in her previous life. She looked like a soft and tender girl, with no evil intentions, and she was so simple that she could easily be taken advantage of. During the flag-raising ceremony on Monday, Mu Niankai apologized to Xia Ying in front of the whole school. She also apologized to everyone who had been bullied by her in the past, and promised not to bully her classmates again, otherwise she would be expelled in accordance with school rules. Xia Ying looked at Mu Niankai on the stage and smiled with satisfaction. The students in the audience who had been bullied by Mu Niankai were also very happy. Although the possibility of Mu Niankai repenting was very low, getting an apology from her was better than nothing at all. "Hey, Xia, what are you doing?" Sun Han yelled at Xia Ying angrily. Xia Ying turned back slowly, still holding up her phone to record the video. Mu Niankai is now reading the confession she prepared on the stage. Of course, she didn't write it herself. She was just going through the motions. "Oh, I'm leaving evidence in case Mu Niankai bullies on campus again, this is the evidence." "Damn it, what are you so proud of, you stinky woman?" Sun Han glared at Xia Ying. "Not as bad as your mouth." Xia Ying replied coldly to her. At this moment, Xia Ying suddenly felt that her hands were empty and her phone had been snatched away. Xia Ying quickly turned her head, it was Jun Chennai. "Give me back my phone." Xia Ying looked up at Jun Chennai and said angrily. When they stood in line, there were boys in one team and girls in another, so Jun Chennai happened to be standing side by side with Xia Ying. "It's a pleasure to help others, don't thank me." Jun Chennai twitched the corners of his lips and said. Xia Ying frowned and looked at him suspiciously. Jun Chennai is suddenly so good. However, this guy is indeed helping her take the video, so let him do whatever he wants. Anyway, it was tiring and inconvenient for her to hold it up. After the video was taken, Jun Chennai handed the phone to Xia Ying and said something sarcastic to her, "Your phone case is so ugly. How old are you and still using SpongeBob SquarePants? Are you childish?" Xia Ying rolled her eyes and said, "What does it have to do with you, as long as I like you?" Jun Chennai curled his lips and smiled, looking at Xia Ying lowering her head to wipe her phone case like a baby, and whispered, "Stupid woman." Xia Ying heard this and raised her head to glare at him. After the flag-raising ceremony, Xia Ying and Ye Xiaoxun walked side by side towards the classroom. As for Sun Han, he naturally told Mu Niankai that Xia Ying had recorded Mu Niankai's video. Mu Niankai felt very embarrassed at first, but Xia Ying actually recorded it for her, and now she couldn't bear it even more. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 104. Chapter 104. The first 100 million in life. The classroom before evening self-study was noisy. The girls were chatting about celebrity scandals, and the boys were discussing the latest football matches and games. Xia Ying stood alone in a corner at the back of the classroom, tinkering with something on her mobile phone. She has received cooperation invitations from several companies. In order to obtain the copyright to download and play the songs of Thornbirds, 10 million is not worth mentioning to these large companies and websites, not to mention that the few songs of Thornbirds can bring them the traffic revenue is more than 10 million, so this is a win-win cooperation model for them. Xia Ying agreed to cooperate with them, and when their contract is sent over, Xia Ying will have 100 million in her account. Xia Ying closed her phone and raised her lips with a pleasant smile. This is the first 100 million in her life. In her previous life, she made a lot of money and hundreds of millions, but she was not as happy as this time. Xia Ying walked towards her seat. When she passed Sun Han's seat, Sun Han deliberately stretched out his leg, preparing to trip Xia Ying. Xia Ying sneered. Sun Han was the only one who played such childish tricks. Xia Ying stepped down without mercy. Ah dash. Sun Han hugged his feet and screamed, staring at Xia Ying with red eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. Xia Ying curled her lips. You did it on purpose. Xia Ying smiled and said slowly, isn't it normal to get stepped on if you put your feet out in the aisle? I'm warning you, it's best to delete the video. Mu Niankai shouted to Xia Ying. As long as you don't bully your classmates, it doesn't matter whether the video is there or not. Don't worry, I'm not some people, and my character is not that corrupt. I think about taking videos of other people's privacy every day to make people look embarrassed. You. Mu Niankai glared at Xia Ying angrily. Xia Ying was mocking her for secretly filming her. Xia Menjian remained silent at the side, her shoulders shaking slightly with anger. She also realized that Mu Niankai originally wanted to harm Xia Ying, but Xia Ying did something to make her become the scapegoat. Xia Ying was too lazy to talk to Mu Niankai and the others, so she walked towards her seat. Jun Chennai also saw the quarrel between Xia Ying and Mu Niankai just now. Are you girls so scary among you? Xia Ying glanced at Jun Chennai who was gloating about his misfortune and said nothing. She had to say that if it weren't for Jun Chennai, she and Mu Niankai would have had much less friction. 80% of the reason Mu Niankai targeted Xia Ying was because of Jun Chennai, and 10% was because of jealousy of Xia Ying. The rest was because Mu Niankai committed suicide. Hey, do you still want to do that investigation? Jun Chennai glanced at Xia Ying slowly. Since Xia Ying gave his mobile phone number a few days ago, she hasn't called him yet. Or are you just deliberately looking for an opportunity to ask for my number? Jun Chennai smiled playfully. Xia Ying gave Jun Chennai a roll of her eyes mercilessly. She is just busy with the copyright issue of Thornbirds recently, how could she not investigate it? Xiao Yanhong, born in 1970, once studied in Class 8 of No. 3 Middle School in City A, and later went to the United States. I want all her information, where she is, what she has been doing recently, and all the information about her daughter Xia Menjian. Jun Chennai originally listened very carefully and was typing for wrong ci. After hearing what happened, he was stunned and looked up at Xia Ying, Xia Menjian's mother. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 105. Chapter 105. You must have fallen in love with me, right? Xia Ying nodded. Isn't her mother dead? Jun Chennai was puzzled. Wasn't Xia Menjian sent to the Xia family just because her mother died? If it were that simple, why would I ask you to find me an agent to investigate? Jun Chennai curled his lips, it seems interesting. Xia Menjian's mother is also a powerful character. When she appeared in the previous life, she destroyed Xia Ying's family not long after. Later, she even entered the main palace and became Xia Chuanhai's official wife. This shows how capable this woman is. Xia Ying will never allow this to happen. She will find out the mother and daughter now and deal with them all. Don't you have a mother? So what is this? Moreover, Xiao Yanhong was Luo Xian's best friend when she was a girl. She took advantage of her best friend and then killed her. This kind of woman is really cruel. They say that the upper beam is not straight and the lower beam is crooked. Xia Menjian really inherited the essence of her mother. Xia Ying became angry when she thought about what happened in her previous life and clenched her fists tightly. Jun Chennai finished sending the text message and glanced at Xia Ying. She suddenly investigated Xia Menjian and her mother. Was she planning to do something? By the way, let me ask you a question. Jun Chennai suddenly spoke. What? Xia Ying turned away and looked at him. Forget it, don't ask. Jun Chennai thought of something again and looked away. Xia Ying frowned, why do you make it so mysterious? By the way, you're not going home with Xia Menjian now. Jun Chennai changed the topic. Xia Ying nodded. She gets angry when she sees Xia Menjian now. She was kind enough by not squeezing her to death. How is it possible for her to pretend to be friendly and ride home with her in the car as before? What she has to do now is to eradicate the problem and get Xia Menjian out of her life completely. Before that, she still has to endure it for a while. Then, how do you get home? It's not like my family only has one car, I just don't have the same car as Xia Menjian. Xia Ying said as she took a water glass and prepared to drink some water. How about I take you home later? Xia Ying choked on the water, and Jun Chennai turned dark. Ahem, cough, cough, what did you say? Xia Ying looked at Jun Chennai in surprise. Jun Chennai's face was as black as the bottom of a pot and he turned away. Stupid woman. Jun Chennai muttered softly. Xia Ying's face darkened and she silently glanced at Jun Chennai. Why was this guy still blushing? Xia Ying frowned, her heart thumped, and she suddenly had a bad thought. Xia Ying stared at Jun Chennai and said weakly, I said, you must have fallen in love with me, right? This guy always likes to quarrel with her and hurt her no matter what happens. Isn't this a typical sign of a middle school boy falling in love with someone? What are you talking about? Who would like a stupid woman like you? Jun Chennai became irritable, but he still couldn't hide the blush on his face. Xia Ying curled her lips, took a sip of water, and said, it would be best if you don't, otherwise you will be in trouble. After hearing this, Jun Chennai raised his eyebrows and looked at Xia Ying coldly. What's the trouble? I can't tell you clearly. You actually think that my young master's liking is a trouble? Jun Chennai was furious. Xia Ying didn't quite understand why Jun Chennai was suddenly so angry. He looked like a crazy beast. What are you doing? Didn't you say you don't like it? The nature is different. Do you know how many people want to be my girlfriend? You stupid woman, you actually dislike me. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 106. Chapter 106. You are not allowed to meet that person in the future. Xia Ying was yelled at by Jun Chennai inexplicably. Jun Chennai's voice was a bit loud. The originally noisy classroom suddenly became quiet because of what Jun Chennai just said. Everyone cast their gazes in the direction of Jun Chennai and Xia Ying. Although they didn't hear clearly what Jun Chennai just said, one thing was clear. They seemed to have had a quarrel. Jun Chennai yelled angrily, what are you looking at? I'm studying in the evening. Everyone looked away silently. The school bell rang soon after, and this little episode was over. But for Xia Ying, this is just the beginning of a nightmare. Jun Chennai didn't even look in Xia Ying's direction during the whole night of self-study. Xia Ying took a sip of water silently. Is Jun Chennai having a cold war with her? What did she do? It seems like you haven't done anything, right? After self-study in the evening, Jun Chennai also quickly packed up his things and left. Yeziaksun also found that Jun Chennai's face smelled bad, so he asked Xia Ying weakly, Xia Ying, did you and Jun Chennai have a fight? Xia Ying curled her lips and said, who knows why he is so crazy. By the way, Sakura, you said you wanted to borrow my physical notebook last time, do you want it now? Yeziaksun asked. Xia Ying said before that she wanted to borrow her physics notebook for review, but Xia Ying didn't come to ask her for it after several days. So she wasn't sure if Xia Ying still needed it now. Ah, that, I almost forgot if you didn't tell me. Xia Ying suddenly reacted and nodded, you can lend me your biology notebook first, and then lend me your biology notebook as well. Good. Yeziaksun lowered his head and searched in his skull bag for a long time, then found out the physics notebook and biology notebook and handed them to Xia Ying. Thanks. Xia Ying showed a sweet smile and said to Ye Xiaoxun, then put the notebook into her school bag and walked out. However, as soon as Xia Ying reached the school gate, she saw Jun Chenai walking towards her hurriedly. Xia Ying was confused and froze in place. Without saying a word, Jun Chenai grabbed Xia Ying's hand and led her away. Hey, what are you doing? Xia Ying screamed behind her, trying desperately to get away. Don't make any noise. Jun Chenai had a bad face and looked like he couldn't help but explain. Moreover, Jun Chenai was obviously much stronger than Xia Ying, and Xia Ying couldn't break away at all. With Jun Chenai in this state, his manager Jian Li couldn't do anything. He could only worry about it on the sidelines, praying that he wouldn't be photographed by the media. Jun Chenai goes crazy and no one can stop him. Xia Ying was forced into Jun Chenai's car, Jun Chenai also got in, and then the car started moving. Where are you taking me? Xia Ying was speechless. Send you home. Xia Ying. He, if he didn't tell her, she would have thought he was kidnapping. Have you ever sent someone home like this? Xia Ying held her forehead helplessly and looked at her left wrist that was tightly grasped by Jun Chenai just now with distress. It was already red from the guy's scratches. Jun Chenai lowered his eyes and looked at the red marks on Xia Ying's wrist. Why are you so delicate? Xia Ying raised her head and glared at him. You are obviously rude. Jun Chenai looked out the window and said coldly, stupid woman, I tell you, you are not allowed to meet that person in the future. Who? Xia Ying looked at Jun Chenai in confusion until she saw a familiar black figure outside the car window. You Lingfeng. Will you get beaten if you get stuck here? Good night, cuties. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 107. Chapter 107. This is not how girls chase girls. Why did Yu Lingfeng appear here? Xia Ying was puzzled. She opened the window and met Yu Lingfeng's gaze. Unfortunately, the car was driving very fast, and Xia Ying soon lost sight of him. Jun Chenai, let me get off the bus. Don't let go. What on earth do you want to do? Xia Ying was angry. Jun Chenai grabbed Xia Ying's wrist fiercely and pushed her. Jun Chenai's handsome face gradually enlarged in front of Xia Ying's eyes. Xia Ying faintly smelled danger from Jun Chenai's half-closed eyes. Breathing, Xia Ying shrank back subconsciously. Let me tell you, you are my young master's fiancé. You'd better be more honest and don't go around flirting with others. Jun Chenai said with a serious face, word for word, and then let go of Xia Ying. He sat aside expressionlessly, staring straight ahead. Xia Ying was startled, then turned to look at Jun Chenai's profile. I'm not engaged to you, are you? You have no right to order me. Jun Chenai ignored her. Xia Ying bit her lower lip. How could she provoke such a person? Jun Chenai did indeed send Xia Ying home, but when Xia Ying got out of the car, she saw Yu Lingfeng standing under the street lamp. Yu Lingfeng saw Xia Ying getting out of the car and walked towards her. Why are you so fast? Xia Ying blinked in surprise and stared at Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng didn't answer, but slowly took off Xia Ying's skull bag and held it in his hand. Hey, stay away from her. Jun Chenai's cold and arrogant voice came over. Yu Lingfeng raised his eyes and met Jun Chenai's gaze. Jun Chenai approached Yu Lingfeng, and Xia Ying was forced to be sandwiched between the two. She always felt that the atmosphere was strange. Jun Chenai reached out and grabbed Xia Ying's wrist, pulled her to his side, stood in front of her as if declaring sovereignty, and looked at Yu Lingfeng. You don't need to pick up my fiancé's skull bag. Jun Chenai specially emphasized the word fiancé, and then took Xia Ying's skull bag from Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying raised her forehead helplessly. Is this guy Jun Chenai sick or something? What is he doing? Yu Lingfeng's face was expressionless, and it seemed that he didn't want to talk to him. Yu Lingfeng met Xia Ying's eyes and raised her finger. Then, Xia Ying walked towards him. Jun Chenai jumped furiously. What's wrong with you, a woman? Is she a dog? You just passed by when someone flirted with you. Jun Chenai, are you sick? Yu Lingfeng is my tutor. I have to go back to make up for my homework. Xia Ying couldn't bear it anymore, so she yelled at Jun Chenai. Jun Chenai clenched his fists, glared at Yu Lingfeng, and said coldly, Tutor? You don't even know who the person standing next to you is. Yu Lingfeng's face was expressionless, and Xia Ying frowned, not understanding what Jun Chenai meant by this meaningless sentence. Stupid woman, wait for me to pick you up from school tomorrow. After Jun Chenai finished speaking, he turned around and left. Why? Just when Xia Ying wanted to say something, Jun Chenai had already walked away quickly and disappeared. Jun Chenai returned to his nanny car angrily. His manager Jian Li sighed and said, Young Master Jun, this is not how girls chase girls. Who wants to chase that stupid woman? Jun Chenai looked unhappy, staring at the backs of Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng outside the window. Jian Li shook his head helplessly. Yu Lingfeng, I saw you at the school gate after school today. Xia Ying raised her head and said to Yu Lingfeng. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 108. Chapter 108. Dad has always loved you. Well, I was going to pick you up, Yu Lingfeng said, paused, looked at Xia Ying, and then said, then I met your fiancé. Xia Ying's face darkened, thinking that when Jun Chenai suddenly pulled her into the car so rudely just after school, it turned out to be because he saw Yu Lingfeng. No, 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 Xia Ying waved her hand quickly, he is not my fiancé, it is just a joke between adults. My parents have a better relationship with his parents, that's all. Yu Lingfeng Jiun responded calmly. Yu Lingfeng, what did Jun Chenai say just now? Xia Ying thought of Jun Chenai's last words before leaving. Tutor, you don't even know who the person standing next to you is. What does it mean that you don't know who Yu Lingfeng is? Could it be that Yu Lingfeng has some special identity that Xia Ying doesn't know about? He likes you. Ah. Does Yu Lingfeng's answer have something to do with her question? Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying and then said, remember what I told you, don't fall in love prematurely. Xia Ying curled her lips, I know. There's no kissing scene in the stage play, right? Yu Lingfeng suddenly asked this question without any clue. How do you know about stage plays? Xia Ying was surprised, why she felt that Yu Lingfeng always seemed to know everything. Standing at the school gate, you can basically know everything. Yu Lingfeng replied calmly. It seems to be the same. There is no kissing scene. Xia Ying, the high school is not so open yet, it is just a stage play, the kissing scene and the like are too much. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng entered the house together. Xia Menjian was already home, huddled on the sofa with her legs hugged and twitching in frustration. Luo Xian comforted her. Perhaps the video of changing clothes was seen by someone, so I felt embarrassed and wronged, so I came to Luo Xian to cry. The reason why I went to Luo Xian to cry about this matter was probably to get closer to Luo Xian. After all, Luo Xian is not her biological mother. It is absolutely impossible for Xia Menjian to want Luo Xian to treat her like Xia Ying, so she must make more efforts. At the very least, she must treat Luo Xian as her biological mother first. Okay. Xia Ying ignored them and went directly to the study room with Yu Lingfeng to study for homework. Sakura. Xia Ying was just about to enter the study when she was stopped by Xia Chuanhai. Xia Ying turned her head and looked at him expressionlessly. What's up? Since the last quarrel with Xia Chuanhai, the two of them have not spoken for a long time and have been in a cold war. I have something to tell you. Xia Chuanhai said, waving to Xia Ying and gesturing for her to follow him. Ling Feng, you go to the study room and read for a while. It'll be quick. Yu Lingfeng nodded. Xia Ying followed Xia Chuanhai to the balcony. Xia Ying was the first to speak. Let me make it clear first that I was not responsible for Xia Menjian's video. If you want to talk to me about this, you don't have to. Xia Chuanhai sighed. Since then, the daughter who always pestered him and called him daddy disappeared, replaced by Xia Ying, who became increasingly distant and indifferent. Probably, all this has something to do with Xia Menjian. Xia Ying couldn't accept the fact that her father betrayed her. Xia Ying, Dad knows that he is sorry for you, Xia Chuanhai said earnestly, but Dad wants you to remember that no matter what happens, Dad always loves you. Xia Ying lowered her eyes and said nothing. Thanks to the little cutie Jun Li Suiao for the reward. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 109. Chapter 109. I have only loved your mother in my life. Love is not as simple as moving your upper and lower lips. It requires you to practice it wholeheartedly. But Xia Chuanhai, the father who keeps saying he loves her, what did he do in his last life? Xia Ying is also confused sometimes. Although her father loved her and her mother so much before, why did he choose to betray, forget, and stay with the mother and daughter at the critical moment? Dad is also helpless sometimes. It's not that he's partial or that he doesn't love you anymore, but there's just too much helplessness. Xia Chuanhai continued, Dad doesn't expect you to forgive me, but I just hope that you and Menyan, we can live together peacefully. I have already felt sorry for Menjian and her mother, and there is no way to make up for it. I don't want to hurt you again because of this matter. Sometimes, the eyes cannot see the truth, Xia Ying said with a stern face. Xia Menjian and I can't coexist peacefully. If you really treat me as your daughter, respect my wishes. If you love your mother, be nice to her and protect her. Xia Ying's voice was choked with sobs at the end. If Xia Chuanhai had shown more care and love to Luo Xian in the previous life, she would not have died with hatred and ended her own life. Xia Chuanhai sighed, I have only loved your mother in my life, how could I not protect her well? Xia Ying bit her lower lip and refrained from saying anything. I'm going to study for my homework, there's an exam coming soon. Etc. Xia Chuanhai stopped Xia Ying again. Xia Ying turned around and asked, is there anything else? Xia Ying, in fact, Dad has always believed in you. Menjian's injury was not caused by you. Xia Ying did not answer, but felt her eyes sting a little, then turned and left. When Xia Ying walked to the living room, she happened to bump into Luo Xian. Luo Xian approached Xia Ying, reached out and touched her head, and said to her gently, Xia Ying, you must also be considerate of your father. He often doesn't mean what he says. Xia Ying bit her lip and said nothing. You and your father had a fight some time ago, and he didn't have a good sleep for several days. Sometimes, your father is just worried about Menjian's feelings, but it doesn't mean that he really doubts you. Xia Ying lowered her head, bit her lips, and said nothing. Her nose was sore. Her mother loved him so much that she chose to forgive him even if he betrayed her. If Xia Chuanhai hurts her mother again in this life, she will definitely not let him go. Okay, go and do your homework, mom will make you some midnight snacks. Xia Ying nodded and walked towards the study. Yu Lingfeng was reading a book, looking very serious. Even when Xia Ying came in, he didn't notice. Yu Lingfeng seems to be particularly fond of black, and often dresses in black. Xia Ying thought that Yu Lingfeng's wardrobe must be of the same color. But Yu Lingfeng's skin is very white, cold white, and the cold black clothes make Yu Lingfeng's whole person particularly cold and ascetic. Yu Lingfeng's fingers have clear joints, are slender and strong, and the way he holds the book feels like a professor. Xia Ying noticed that there was a black watch on Yu Lingfeng's left wrist. He seemed to like that watch very much. It had always been that watch. Coming. Yu Lingfeng raised his eyes and looked at Xia Ying. Xia Ying was stunned for a moment, looking away from Yu Lingfeng's watch and meeting his gaze. She nodded and walked closer to him. Yu Lingfeng is reading some books on universe and quantum physics again. He really has the same interests as his father. If I tell you that Xia Chuanhai will come clean later, what do you think? Bad smile. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 110. Chapter 110 Butterfly Effect. Yu Lingfeng put down the book, but Xia Ying held her face in her hands and stared at the cover of Yu Lingfeng's book in fascination. Yu Lingfeng was reading a book called The Universe in a Nutshell. Xia Ying knew that this book was written by Hawking. She had read a bit before when she was bored. The content in it was quite profound, but she didn't understand it anyway. Yu Lingfeng, do you think it is possible to travel through time and space? Xia Ying asked. Xia Ying always felt that her rebirth was probably a kind of time travel. Xia Ying blinked and looked at Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng is serious. Then, what would happen if we forcibly changed what was supposed to happen? Xia Ying asked again. The greatest significance of her rebirth is to protect her family and not continue the tragic fate of her previous life. Do you know the butterfly effect? Xia Ying shook her head. That is to say, there are certainties and variables in the development of anything. Any slight change will have a huge impact on the future. Yu Lingfeng continued, some things are destined, and some can be changed. But no one knows what impact such a change will have. Xia Ying felt dizzy after hearing this, and rubbed her forehead, digesting what Yu Lingfeng had just said. Yu Lingfeng stretched out his hand and gently placed it on Xia Ying's head. Xia Ying raised her head slightly and looked at Yu Lingfeng. Don't worry, I'm here. Xia Ying looked at Yu Lingfeng blankly. What did he mean? Start studying. Yu Lingfeng withdrew his hand, as if nothing had happened, and was about to start tutoring Xia Ying. Xia Ying bit her lower lip, thinking about something in her heart. As soon as Xia Ying went out the next day, she was frightened by a luxury extended edition limited edition sports car outside the door and shrank back, but not because of the car, but because of the person who was opening the car door and walking towards him. Jun Chennai is dressed in the Guangyang school system, and his honey brown hair makes his skin extremely fair. It was obviously an ordinary school uniform, but when it was worn on Jun Chennai, it made him as charming as a prince. Sure enough, no matter what kind of clothes you wear, you have to rely on your appearance to support it. Jun Chennai approached Xia Ying and glanced at Xia Menjian, who was behind Xia Ying. Xia Menjian was really surprised when she saw Jun Chennai. Did Jun Chennai and Xia Ying's relationship develop so violently? Jun Chennai came to send her to school so soon? Aren't you afraid of being photographed and hyped by the media? Xia Menjian didn't say a word and sat in her car silently. When she left, she took a photo and sent it to Muni Ankai. Boarding. Jun Chennai looked arrogant, and his tone was without any warmth. What are you doing? Xia Ying was helpless. Why did she suddenly have to send her to and from school? Didn't Jun Chennai dislike her so much some time ago? He also told her not to want Xiao Xiang to have a relationship with him. What's going on now? Taking the wrong medicine? Do what needs to be done. Jun Chennai said, grabbed Xia Ying's school bag, then took Xia Ying's wrist and forcibly pulled her into the car. The servants of the Xia family were all dumbfounded. If they hadn't known that he was Jun Chennai, the first young master in the imperial capital, and the fiancé of their young lady, they would have thought that Jun Chennai was playing hooligan. It hurts, let go. Xia Ying screamed and was dragged to the car by Jun Chennai, and the car door was closed. End of this chapter.